She crossed an ocean to escape him. Weeks later, a masked figure wheeled a suitcase out of her building, and Ana was never seen again. Welcome, lambs. Welcome to Love and Murder, Heartbreak to Homicide, your Florida Man Friday edition. Hi, my name is Kai. Take a seat, take a listen all the way to the end. And if you like my retelling, then go ahead and subscribe. Don't forget that you can also subscribe on our Patreon, patreon.com/Love and Murder. You can subscribe for free where you do get some benefits. And if you haven't done that yet, you are missing out over there. Or if you want to be a supporter of the victims and getting their cases told, getting their stories out there, and you want to be a supporter of Love and Murder, then go ahead and choose one of our bonus tiers. The best tier that you can choose is the $5 tier because you do get bonus episodes with that tier. Case extras, no commercials, no intros such as this one, and so much more. Patreon.com/Love and Murder. Now, before I say let's get into this episode, I do want to say stay till the end because at the end, I do have some behind the scenes podcast news that I want to share with you. All right. So now let's get into your Florida Man Friday. So first, I want to say that with this case, I do have to say that everything in this episode is alleged. And you'll see why I didn't word it how I normally word it. You'll get it by the end of this episode. And also, I did look up how to say the last name. Please forgive me if I still say it wrong, because I did explain to y'all that even though I look it up, by the time it comes to saying it, I've probably forgotten it. But I will try my best, so I apologize beforehand. On February 2nd, 2024, 40-year-old Ana Knezevich disappeared from her apartment in Madrid, Spain. Originally from Colombia and a naturalized U.S. citizen, Ana had recently moved to Spain to start over after separating from her husband of 13 years, 36-year-old Florida businessman David Knezevich. Ana and David co-owned EOX Technology Solutions, Inc., which is a Florida-based tech support company. The couple had earned millions in shared assets, including residential properties in Broward County. When their marriage fell apart, so did any sense of trust. Ana's brother Juan Henayo told investigators the divorce turned, quote, nasty, and David was angry over dividing the couple's wealth. I mean, money does always play a role in how people treat each other. I don't know why. I don't know, if you build a company together, then split the money as such. If you didn't build it together, like somebody had more of a role in doing something, then split it as such. If you did 60% of the work, then 60% of the money goes to you or whatever. But then again, I guess it still goes down to, well, who did most of the work? I did this, I did that. So you'll never come to a resolution. I guess it's just good to keep track of everything throughout your entire marriage. Not that you're preparing for divorce, but you never know what the future holds. Ana confided in friends that she was afraid of her ex-husband and believed he was watching her. David's attorney, Jane Weintraub, said that these claims were false and described the split as, quote, amicable. But behind the scenes, Ana still feared David, no matter what anybody said. She was still scared of him, and that's why she decided to move to Madrid in late December 2023. She described this move as an attempt to just be further away from him and feel safe. On February 2nd, Ana was supposed to leave for Barcelona with her friends, and she never showed up. That same evening, surveillance camera at her Madrid apartment captured a man in a motorcycle helmet entering the building around 9:30 p.m. He sprayed paint over the security camera lens. What is this, a movie? And covered the door lock with duct tape, but not before surveillance footage captured this image. Spanish police were able to identify the specific brand of spray paint used on the cameras. Wow. Matching it to the purchase made earlier that day. Wow. I mean, were you able to, how they say on the shows, zoom in, and you can just zoom in and the quality is crystal clear? Were they able to see, the name of the spray paint, or did they just see, the colors of the logo or something? That's amazing. And then they matched it to the purchase made earlier that day. I bet you the person who sprayed the security cameras really didn't expect that, because I know I wouldn't have expected that. Also, the suspect had briefly looked directly into the camera, revealing, quote, physical characteristics that resemble those of Knezevich. An hour later, he was seen wheeling a suitcase out of the building, and Ana was not seen after that. The next day, Ana's friends and family received a text message from her phone saying that she'd met a man and was heading off with him to a remote area. How many times have we seen this tried and failed? Quote, I met someone wonderful. He has a summer house about 2 hours from Madrid. We are going there now, and I will spend a few days there. Signal is spotty. I'll call you when I get back. Another message claimed, quote, amazing connection like I've never seen before. However, her friend Sana Ramo immediately suspected something was wrong. First of all, the messages were not like Ana's texting style at all. She said they seemed, quote, unemotional and flat. Also, this part is funny, the Spanish used in the text didn't match Ana's voice. One friend said that it read like it had been passed through Google Translate. Ana's brother said that, quote, it made no sense. How are you going to try and pass off yourself like somebody who speaks a different language and you don't even know the language? You put it through Google Translate, literally it will. So most languages don't formulate their sentences in the same format as English. Like, for instance, we'll say, I'm hungry, like I am hungry. And in other languages, they would say, I have hunger, like something like that. You know what I'm saying? So if you put in Google Translate, I am hungry, it'll literally spit out in the other language, I am hungry. But that's not how they say it. So basically, now we got to put this in our LAM file. Not only is this a case of someone trying to text and pass themselves off as, you know, the victim, saying, I'm okay, I'm not dead, you know, I'm still alive and I'm thousands of miles away doing something I will not normally do. But then it's also a case of the victim saying this in another language that the perp doesn't even know the language. I can't even. Wow. Then, in a shocking breakthrough for FBI, they interviewed a Colombian woman who had met David on a dating app in October 2023. On February 3rd, just one day after Ana vanished, David had allegedly asked this woman to translate a message from English into, quote, perfect Colombian. Perfect Colombian? Colombian is not a language. Colombian is a nationality, not a language. So my question would be like, well, what is that? Claiming it was for, quote, a friend in Serbia who is writing a script about a Colombian character. So then the woman showed the feds the message, and the message read, quote, I met someone wonderful. He has a summer house about 2 hours from Madrid. We are going there now, and I will spend a few days there. Signal is spotty. I'll call you when I get back. Sound familiar? Now, my question is, hold on. If you asked Colombian to do this, then why did it not sound like it was Spanish? This is interesting. But, you know, the difference is, okay, difference. Colombian Spanish and Spain Spanish are kind of different. So maybe that's what the Spain friends thought. I don't know. I know if you do like Puerto Rican Spanish to Spain Spanish, like that's completely I don't want to say completely different, but it has a lot of differences. So I wonder if it's the same for Colombian Spanish. You know what I'm saying? So maybe that's what it is, because the Spaniards were saying it sounded like it went through Google Translate, but then they found a Colombian woman who actually is the one who translated this. Interesting. Anybody who has insight into this, let me know. Like the differences between Spain Spanish and Colombian Spanish. Let me know, because I'm neither a Spaniard nor Colombian, and I can't tell you. I might actually look this up after the show because I'm really curious about it. I do want to hear from you, so let me know in the show notes below what you think. So now, the reason why this woman even went to the feds was because her mother had seen news articles with messages from Ana that matched exactly what she had translated. And so she was like, I'm not trying to help somebody get rid of their wife. That's not what I was trying to do. And she contacted the feds, which is something that Kai would do. Prosecutors said he left Miami for Turkey around January 27th and traveled to Serbia and then rented a Peugeot in Belgrade. I think that's the name of the city, Belgrade. Am I saying it right? On January 29th, he allegedly then drove about 1,600 miles from Serbia to Spain. And on February 5th, he returned to Serbia. So during their investigation, Spanish investigators claimed that the man in the helmet was most likely David. Security footage from a local hardware store showed David, or a man resembling David, buying the same spray paint and duct tape used at Ana's apartment, and he paid in cash. Investigators also discovered that license plates that had been reported stolen in Spain had appeared on David's rented Peugeot near Ana's apartment. These same plates were then captured by toll booth cameras outside of Madrid during the night of February 2nd, February 3rd. When the car was returned 5 weeks later, it had tinted windows. So it didn't leave with tinted windows, but it came back with tinted windows. It had different license plates, and it had logged nearly 4,800 miles on it, which is about 7,676 kilometers, which is 4 times the distance between Belgrade to Madrid. And if you were to look it up, you would see that it takes about 26 hours to drive the 1,600 miles between the two cities. So even though this is all happening over in Madrid and the Madrid police are taking care of it, U.S. prosecutors were still building a federal case against David because they're still Americans. So maybe it was like, you deal with it over there and he'll get his sentences for y'all, but he still has to come here to deal with sentencing here. On May 4th, 2024, David was arrested at Miami International Airport after returning from Serbia, and he was charged with kidnapping. The FBI then transported him directly to the federal detention center in downtown Miami, where a judge ordered him held without bail, saying that he was a flight risk. Quote, David has worked with authorities. He has talked to detectives in Spain on a number of occasions. He has provided credit card information. This was a quote from his attorney, Kenneth Padowitz, and he said his client was, quote, doing everything that he possibly can from Serbia to assist in the search of his missing wife. So is that why you're saying he went to Serbia? Because how did he get to Serbia before she was missing to start helping in the search for her being missing? He got there before she was missing, though. That same month, the FBI executed a search warrant at David's home in Fort Lauderdale, and according to court records, they recovered a notebook that prosecutors now say reveals his, quote, murder mindset. It wasn't just personal notes or ramblings. Like if you look at my notebook, you're just going to see a list of everything that I have to do for my whole life. It was filled with quotes. One, attributed to Joseph Stalin, read, quote, death solves all problems. No man, no problem. Damn. Another from Winston Churchill said, quote, when you have to kill a man, it costs nothing to be polite. The prosecution later pointed this as an insight into how David might have been thinking before Ana disappeared. Meanwhile, David's brother is under federal investigation for allegedly tampering with evidence. Now, I skipped his brother's name because I don't even know how to say it. Uglejesa. I'm not sure how to say that. But even though his brother is under federal investigation, no formal charges have been filed against him. The FBI says that David's brother initially claimed that he was estranged from David, but phone records showed a different story. Since David's arrest, the two had exchanged multiple phone calls and emails. David's legal team then filed a motion to block the government from reviewing his brother's electronic devices. Why? His brother said they were estranged, so why can't the legal team look at the electronic devices? I mean, they looked at it and said that he was lying. So what more does he have to hide? What are you hiding? Now, by the end of 2024, a federal grand jury had upgraded David's charges to include kidnapping resulting in death, foreign domestic violence resulting in death, and foreign murder of a U.S. national. The amended indictment stated that David had traveled from Miami to Madrid, quote, with the intent to kill, injure, harass, and intimidate his spouse and intimate partner, and, quote, willfully, deliberately, maliciously, and with premeditation and malice, aforethought, unlawfully kill Ana. This is what the amendment now stated. Prosecutors painted a picture of motive and opportunity. A man facing a bitter divorce, about to lose millions of dollars, who suddenly went off grid, appeared near his wife's apartment, returned a tampered rental car, and fake text messages. They also pointed out the sale of 7 properties between December and February worth over $6.7 million. Proof, as they said, that David was planning something big. They also pointed out that Ana was fighting for half of the marital assets in their divorce. In WhatsApp messages to her friends, she said that David was only offering her 25%, far less than she thought that she was entitled to. Now, my question is, she's asking for half. Is it worth it that you went and allegedly murdered her in order to not give her half of millions of dollars? Like literally, you'd have still been a millionaire. Is it worth it to have murdered somebody, allegedly, instead of just handing over half? Like half, move on with your life and continue building money. Or allegedly murder somebody, all your money is frozen and now you're in prison. Like, which one makes more sense? One would have been annoying as crap, yes, but you would have still continued building more money. Like, I don't understand people and this obsession with money, money, money. Money! Like, it's not that deep. You can make it back. You made it the first time. You can make it back. And like I said, also, if you are so worried about how much money somebody is going to be taking from you, again, not saying you're planning for divorce, but money is that damn important, then you should be tracking every penny throughout the marriage. Maybe have a prenup, maybe update the prenup throughout the marriage. You know, have something. Anyway, so this is what the prosecution was bringing forward, and of course the defense has to defend. They argued that the case lacked forensic evidence and that the FBI had misrepresented key details. One example, they said, of this misrepresentation was an FBI agent initially testified that Spanish police found blood in Ana's apartment, and later on that was actually proven false. There was no blood. They also said there was no suitcase visible in the elevator footage either. And they also pointed to jurisdiction. Is this going to happen in the U.S. court who had authority over it, or is this happening in Spain court? You know, which one has authority over this case? So the defense is just trying to put a blanket of reasonable doubt over the entire case. On June 18th, 2024, David's attorney filed a motion seeking his release. Because remember, he's still in prison this whole time, just waiting for trial. Attorney Weintraub argued that U.S. courts lack authority to prosecute a crime allegedly committed in Spain. Quote, the FBI reports contain information that makes clear the court has no jurisdiction over this alleged kidnapping. The defense team went on to allege that the federal prosecutors were using the kidnapping charges merely as a pretext, quote, while it conducts a massive international murder investigation. I mean, yeah. I mean, if that's what it takes to keep him in the country while they conduct a massive international murder investigation, yeah. And as an attorney, you would have done the same thing. But you know, you're the defense, you got to defend. And the defense actually appeared to have gained a win because this defense about is it an international murder investigation or is it something that's for the U.S. gained credibility when they revealed that FBI interview reports listed the investigative category as, quote, foreign murder of a U.S. national by a U.S. national instead of kidnapping. So basically, they're pointing out that, see, even the FBI thinks this is a foreign matter. Then in August 2024, Spanish and Italian police, along with the FBI, searched a wooded area north of Vicenza after GPS data showed David's rental car had stopped there. Even though they did see that piece of information and saw that as some evidence, they actually found nothing there. And as of today, Ana's body still hasn't been located. On January 23rd, 2025, the U.S. Attorney's Office in Miami announced it, quote, does not intend to seek the death penalty against the defendant in this case. But if he was convicted, he would still face the maximum sentence of life imprisonment. Then at a February 2025 hearing, the court heard why David's brother was even stopped at the Miami International Airport. He was stopped, get this, under suspicion of bringing, quote, a ham into the United States. This is why he was stopped. And I would be like shocked, like, you stopped me for bringing meat into the United States? And this is the FBI stopping me? Like, what? So the defense argued that it was a pretext to seize his electronics. And I mean, not that I'm agreeing with the defense, but in this instance, I have to agree with the defense because you stopped him for bringing, quote, a ham into the United States, FBI. But I guess, the prosecution got to do what the prosecution got to do to get this information. Otherwise, they would have just taken David's brother's word for it, saying that, oh, I don't talk to my brother. Then they found on the text message, oh, you do really, really talk to your brother. So, I mean, again, the defense would have done the same thing if they had to. But in reality, that's not something that you can do. Like, you can't just stop people for no reason. And U.S. District Judge Kathleen Williams said, quote, let me say that this search or the initial stop was not made to protect the border. So basically, she said, shame on you. You shouldn't have done that. But also she rejected the defense's request to halt the seizure of the brother's cell phone, instead telling prosecutors that they needed to use a, quote, filter team to prevent viewing confidential attorney-client information. Okay. So I guess there's going to be a third party, because I was about to say, what's the filter team? I guess there's going to be a third party that reviews it and then passes it on to them, an impartial party that reviews what's in the phone to block what they shouldn't be seeing versus what they need to see, and they'll send them what they need to see. Then David's defense team presented a motion requesting access to crucial evidence, including medical records, witness identities, and examination of the Madrid apartment where Ana went missing. And the judge granted this motion, saying that the prosecution had to share evidence, which I agree. You can't just keep evidence to yourself. And the reason that this is even significant, because I was like, really, why is that a problem? I thought that was what we do. Is because, as criminal defense expert Eric Cruz explained, quote, Spanish law permits substantial secrecy surrounding evidence of criminal wrongdoing that has hampered the defense's ability to obtain that evidence. Wow. Different country, different laws. And on the 1-year anniversary of Ana's disappearing, as of when I wrote this, so I'm kind of reading you my notes to show you what was going on. So as of when I wrote this, David was in custody and maintained his innocence. And the case was just a very circumstantial one, a series of movements, purchases, altered evidence, digital messages, and financial motives. But there was no body, there was no confession, and no definitive forensic proof of what happened to Ana. So it was just circumstantial evidence. And from when I wrote this initially, David's trial had been scheduled to start on June 15th, 2025. Then last week, which I was supposed to initially record this last week. So last week on Monday morning, April 29, 2025, whenever I do a case that's still ongoing, I usually write my cases way in advance because I have to do research. I got to get my talking points, everything like that. And I usually do it way in advance. But if the case is still ongoing, then before I record, I do a search on the case to see if there's any updates, So I was getting ready to record. I did my normal search and just shock. So on Monday morning, April 29th, 2025, David was found dead in his jail cell at the Federal Detention Center in Miami. They labeled it as died by suicide. His death was confirmed by his attorney, who said they were informed by federal prosecutors that morning. They later discussed the situation with Judge Williams over Zoom. And attorney Weintraub was quoted as saying, quote, it's just terrible. She said she had met with David the day before alongside 2 other defense lawyers and, quote, as always, he was very appreciative and polite. In a joint statement, his defense team said that they were, quote, devastated to learn of this news and hoped for, quote, an appropriate and prompt investigation. So the FBI have now an inquiry into his death. But with David's death, the federal charges against him will likely be dismissed, and now his trial will never happen. And that leaves a lot of unanswered questions behind. What happened to Ana? Did he really have something to do with it? If so, where's her body? Just so many questions that now will not be answered. And that's why I worded the everything is alleged comment before the show, because I couldn't say that the case is still ongoing because it's really not. But yeah, that's what happened. And so to me, all of this wasn't worth it for some millions of dollars. You know what I'm saying? That's why people say money doesn't buy happiness. And, people like me who have no money, they're like, give me some money. Let me prove you wrong or right. Let me be the judge of that statement. You know what I'm saying? But money does cause a lot of problems. Like when it comes to money, I see a lot of people betray trust like crazy. Like a lot of people do a lot of stuff for money, just crazy stuff for money. And they justify it because, well, it's money, and money doesn't follow you to the grave. Like you got to think about that. Money doesn't follow you to the grave. So and I'm going to say if, because this is all alleged, if David did murder Ana so that she couldn't get half of his money, like you were immediately found out, and you immediately went to jail. Like you didn't even have a day to revel in the fact that, okay, I have 100% control of my assets. You didn't even have a day to revel in that. You know what I'm saying? And then as the trial went on, like everything was closing in around you. Then you decided to take your life. Where's your money? Where are those millions of dollars that you allegedly did this for? You know what I'm saying? Now, nobody gets the money. It's probably going to be held up in court or the bank or whatever happens. And like, who's getting this money that you could have just said, here, F it, take half, rebuilt your empire. Or even if you couldn't you still have, you would have still been a millionaire. So both of y'all would have been millionaires. Money does not define anything, actually. It does make your life more comfortable in the sense of you don't have to worry about how you're going to pay your bills. But now you have to worry about who can you trust? You know what I'm saying? The person that's in your own house, can you even trust them? Because we've had cases of people who poison their loved ones so that they can get their money. You know what I'm saying? So like, it now turns into a whole set of other problems. Who can you even trust? Can you trust your accountant who has access to your money? Look at Selena Quintanilla. She couldn't even trust that woman. And that woman is now trying to get out of prison. You better sit there and, anyways, you can't trust your children because there's cases of children. Well, I just want my mom's $300,000. So I'm going to murder her. You know what I'm saying? You can't trust your partner because there's people who killed each other, husband and wife or whatever, for their money. Like, who can you trust? So it's just exchanging one set of problems for another. Are these people really your friends, or are they with you for money? Even people you grew up with. Are they telling you what you need to hear or what you want to hear so that they can still have access to the dinners, the shopping sprees? So again, you're changing one problem for the next. And then when you die, the money doesn't follow you to the grave. I mean, you could be buried with it, but then what does it do? Just rot alongside with you. The money doesn't follow you to the grave. So that's why I'm saying money isn't everything. It's nice to have, but you also got to keep your perspective as well. Anyways, let me just climb off my soapbox here. What do y'all think? I want to hear your thoughts in the comments below. That is such a sad ending to this case. And there will be no answers to this case. Maybe one day they might find Ana or they might find her body, but other than that, if that never happens and David's gone, we're just never going to have answers to this case. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And I haven't done this in a while, so let me read your comments. I have been so behind, and part of my closing behind the scenes, I'm going to let you in on that too. But I just want to read your comments, even though I am still behind. So the one that I really want to read is, remember we did that case of Jackson Rodriguez and I was like, I'm going to break my legs going to the comments trying to read what y'all are saying. Oh, let me read the comments from that case, at least that case. So Tanya Brown said, wow, I can't believe he just left his wife and kids to face death. I agree with you, Kai. I'd be heading to that divorce lawyer ASAP. Weekend M8 said, that's wrong in all areas. Even if the wife divorced him, what will he say to his child? I mean, what can you say? There's no excuse in the history of excuses that he can give. Because as a child myself, so I have experience in this area as a child myself, if my stepdad were to hide under the bed while my mom faced off with some intruders, there's literally, I can't think of one excuse in the book that he could give me. Like, I can't think of one. Or even if I were to leave my daughter to face off with some intruders, I can't think of one excuse I could give my daughter where she would be like, okay, I forgive you. Like, there's nothing you can say. And basically, there were a ton of comments on this case, and I'm not even going to be able to read all of them. But the sentiment is basically divorce. Everybody agreed with the divorce comment. Also, some people were saying that they think he set this up to try and get rid of the wife and kid. I mean, if that's the case, then it was poorly executed because they got the wife and kid back. I don't think he set this up. I think he was just a coward. I think people just can't even believe how much of a coward this guy was. So they're like, maybe he set this up. You know what I'm saying? Instead of getting a divorce, kill off the wife and child. But I think you really have to understand just how much of a coward this guy is. And then somebody else made another comment saying that he's going to have to face off with his team when he goes back, which, yeah, imagine that. I don't think his team is going to let him live this down. Like, that was coward move. Genuine 100% grade level coward move, especially where your child was involved. I can't give you any excuses. Usually I try and find I can't give you any excuses for that. And I really want to go back and see if his wife has left him. I'm going to look that up. I'm going to look that up after I record this. Like, did she leave him? Did she stay with him? I'll be shocked. My thing is, if she stays with him, and I'm going to say alleged because I don't know her, but she's only doing it for the money. But dude, just divorce the dude, because don't ever think he's going to protect you. Or maybe he'll try and redeem himself. Hopefully this never happens again, but maybe he'll try and redeem himself. Who knows? But I don't want to be the one to find out. You know what I'm saying? Like, just get your kids and leave. Because unless you're about to be the man in the relationship and protect your own self and your own children, yeah. And then some stupid people were like, oh, it's equal opportunity. We're equal opportunists here. So women say they want equality. So, he was, okay, yeah, dummy. I hear all that, but the child has to fall into that too. That's not funny. That's not funny. Oh, I had a lot of comments on this case, just a lot. And like I said, most of them were just talking about that he's a coward and divorce. If you haven't heard that case, then I will leave the link to it in the show notes below, and you can leave a comment on your own. Tell me what you think about this person and the situation. So that's it for this Florida Man Friday. Now let me get into the behind the scenes, workings of Love and Murder, what's going on with it, what to expect in the future, etc., etc. So first of all, I know since 5 years ago when the show started, we've gone through so many changes. That's because you're basically seeing the evolution of a podcast in real time. That's what's happening. And I don't like to just pretend that everything's perfect. I don't even pretend that with my kid. Everything is not perfect. Everything is working. I'm still learning. I started this podcasting game without knowing what I was doing. So it's still all a learning process. You know what I'm saying? Everything is coming together, but it's still a learning process for me. Just like with Jeff Bezos with Amazon. He started this in his garage. I mean, granted, his parents chucked a freaking fortune at him, but he started learning and evolving and growing, and you can't have a successful business without that. So I think I told you all this. I did win a grant, and with that grant, I had podcast coaches. So I had people who were experienced in doing this, helping me out with the podcast. They loved the podcast. They loved the concept of the podcast, and they loved my vision with the podcast. They did help me find my voice more. They did help me hone my mission. And I'm very, very thankful for this grant that I got. Very thankful. And the funny thing is, I signed up for this grant not thinking I would win it at all, because I was going against people who had like a purpose, like helping the environment, helping their community, stuff like this. And although I have that same purpose, not with the environment, I mean, I do want to help the environment, but that's not what my podcast is about. You know what I'm saying? That's just me on the side. But my podcast wasn't like helping the environment or bringing safe drinking water to, you know what I'm saying? So my thing was like, I kind of felt like, well, I'm just true crime. Like, you know, they're not going to accept me. But I still put in my application, and the judges listened to my podcast and they saw the potential. And it wasn't just true crime. It was about getting the victims' voices out there. So I was still doing, you know, something that I thought I wasn't doing. So that's why I was accepted. With all that being said, part of the process was them helping me grow this podcast into the business that I see that it can be. The reason I want to grow it into a business, I do want it to be an activist type of podcast to bring the stories forward, but I also want it to be a business because I see how many people losing their jobs, how many people need jobs, and I do want to bring jobs to my community, you know? So that's the business aspect of it. So with that in mind, they're looking at the business side of it too, while still keeping true the activist side of it. And they told me that basically the way I'm doing the podcast is I'm going to burn myself out, because they're like, it's not sustainable doing all of this by yourself. I'm literally, truly doing this by myself. Like everything. I work the job of 5 people. I don't have time off. I don't have downtime. I don't have time to, you know, I'm constantly going. And they're like, you're going to burn yourself out. So they were actually telling me that the fact that I do 3 episodes a week is not sustainable, and that I need to take out Midweek Wednesday and Florida Man Friday, or if anything, put it behind a paywall and only have my 1 episode a week. So I've actually been thinking about this and pondering this, which is the same as thinking about it, and going over this in my head. But this is what I came to. I don't think it's fair, because y'all have gotten used to Midweek Wednesday and Florida Man Friday. I don't think it's fair to just yank these from the air. You know what I'm saying? And I do want to keep it going. But my thing is, I am burning out. I am burning out because, like I said, I'm doing the job of 5 people. A podcast is not, especially a true crime podcast, is not as simple as just I plug in a microphone and start recording and then put out what I record. That's not what happens. I have to research every single case. I have to make sure I get all dates right, all this right, all that right. I have to, because I don't have a great memory, I can't just do bullet points of my notes. I have to write out a script, basically. I write out majority of what's going on with the cases, and then you hear my ranting within it, you know? The ranting isn't written out. It's the case that's written out. I have to write it out because I've tried it with bullet points before and I can't do it. So in the research, I have to write it. Then I have to pull out my microphone and I have to record it. Then I have to edit it. Then I have to put it out. Then I have to write a blog post and, you know, the show notes and everything for it. Then I have to do the SEO. Then I have to put it out on social, and I'm still not even finished telling you all the stuff I have to do. You know what I'm saying? So I'm literally doing the job of 5 people, just me, myself. I'm feeling it. Like, as you can see in the last, month, I haven't had these episodes out on time at all. So what I decided to do as I was figuring out what do I want to do, I decided that I am going to keep, first of all, your full episodes are going to remain the same. That's not going to change. Weekly full episodes on Monday, coming out every Monday. That's not going to change. But the Midweek Wednesday and the Florida Man Fridays, or the Foreign Affairs Fridays, that I'm going to lean heavily on my co-hosts. And you know my co-hosts, which are AI Jane, Jessica, and Jensen. I'm going to lean heavily on them. Now, even though I still have to do the research and write out the entire case for them to then relay the case to you, because it's not like I just put this in a thing and the AI spits it out. No. I have to research. I have to write everything, every single thing, every single word they say, I write it. But what it does take out the recording and the editing for me. So that does save me time. So I'm going to lean heavily into my co-hosts for Midweek Wednesday and Florida Man Friday. I don't know what that's going to look like in terms of schedule. I don't know if I'm going to do every other week the AIs, and then, the next week will be me, or maybe 3 weeks a month, the AIs, and just 1 week a month, me. I don't know what that's going to look like. For now, it's probably going to be just an up in the air type of schedule. You'll just hear AI Jane or Jensen and Jessica there for a Midweek Wednesday or Florida Man Friday. I don't want to give you a set in stone schedule for that, but I do want to let you know that they're going to be taking over some of the Midweek Wednesdays and the Florida Man Fridays. I wanted to tell you this now sooner rather than later, because I do feel myself I don't know if I could keep up with it, and I don't want my podcast to suffer. I think it's too important what I do, and I can't let it suffer. So I haven't fleshed out the schedule yet, but I have solidified that this is what's going to happen. So it's still going to be out for the public. I'm not going to put it behind a paywall. And I also do need to give more time to my Patreons, which the public podcast has been taking all of my time. I have even no time to market and try and grow even more, or nothing. I have no time to do anything except research, write, record, edit, and put out the public podcast. I have literally no time to myself. I don't even want to tell y'all my self-care that has not been happening. I have no time. And I need to have time. I need to have time for my family. I need to have time for myself. I need to have time for the patrons that pay to be a supporter of Love and Murder. And I need to have time to market the show, to get more airs on the show, and to get the victim stories heard. So this is why I'm doing it. I don't want to take away the segments that y'all are used to. So I have to lean heavily into my co-hosts. And I hope you all understand. I don't have anybody helping me. Even when I did have some co-hosts there, my first co-host didn't help me at all. And my second co-host just said it was too much work and they bounced on me. So it's just me doing it. And my co-hosts right now are just AIs, because those are the quote unquote people that I can count on. So I hope y'all understand. So that's kind of just the behind the scenes that I wanted to bring to y'all. I wanted to talk to y'all. So y'all understand what's going to happen moving forward. I didn't want to just drop this on y'all. I respect y'all as my listeners. And so any changes that's going to be made, whether it's this one or moving forward, I'm going to let you know about that change. I'm not going to just change on you and be like, well, they're just going to eat it. I want to let you know about the change. I want to hear your thoughts on the change. You know what I'm saying? I want to hear from you, because I say y'all are also my co-hosts. Y'all also help me mold the podcast into what it is now. And I do appreciate that of y'all. I appreciate your listening. I appreciate your support. I appreciate everything that y'all do for LAM, whether it's just literally hitting play and listening to the podcast, whether you share it with friends, whether you leave a comment and let me know what you think. I appreciate it all. So I do respect you enough to let you know what I plan to do in the future. And I will always let you know what I plan to do in the future. So that was my behind the scenes that I wanted to leave y'all with in this episode. Also, if you want to hear another behind the scenes, somebody I did a case on reached out to me. I left that behind the scenes in the Patreon. So if you want to hear who reached out to me, and if you want to hear what my thoughts are on that and what my decision was, then yeah, definitely go to the Patreon and you'll get that behind the scenes. Patreon.com/Love and Murder. And like I already said, thank you for listening all the way to the end. Thank you for being a lamb. Thank you for your patience. And thank you for just hitting play and being here. And I will see you in the next episode. Bye.